A pair of towns in Levy County are putting their small businesses on display for their residents. TV20's Ethan Badowski tells us how organizers are showing that there's more to these towns than even some locals may realize.
People in Yankeetown and Inglis got a taste of what their town has to offer at this year's Tour the Towns event. The annual event started 4 years ago and is meant to showcase the two towns' small businesses through a scavenger hunt.
We're just trying to show people what we have down here in Inglis and Yankeetown as far as businesses, and you can come and spend the day and have a great time.
I wanted to definitely get folks to know about what we have here in Inglis and Yankeetown, what our businesses are, but for me it was about community. I wanted the community to come out, get together, kind of do a progressive tour.
The tour features 16 stops at the two towns' most historic small businesses, and it starts right here at Firefly Vintage on Highway 40 in Levy County. The tour then wound its way west down Highway 40 with stops at places like ice cream shops, a taco truck, and an old Inglis inn. All along the route, visitors could learn about the local businesses and pick up raffle tickets to receive prizes.
Seeing some of the new businesses, I would have no reason to come into the daycare, and yet I've met the owners, so this gives me that opportunity to see some of the other businesses and maybe support them and hear what's going on.
And there's something else about the area that event organizers want people to know.
Elvis filmed a movie in Yankeetown in 1961 called Follow That Dream, so we embrace all that is Elvis in Yankeetown.
The final stop on the tour was at Blackwater Bar and Grill, where people could enjoy lunch and a raffle to wrap up the event. In Yankeetown, Ethan Badowski, TV20 News.